The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Friday, and here we go. We're off.
Well, you know, I am a little upset, but I'm not upset. My phone started ringing at probably about 6 o'clock this morning with people complaining that Pravda, otherwise known as the Herald News, wrote an article about the lawsuit that was filed by the 10 taxpayers, and they felt that it was all lies. Well, I wonder why it was all lies. They didn't, number one, they didn't go to the people who filed the lawsuit. They didn't go to any authorized representative as far as the clients are concerning. I mean, if they went to Les Rich, maybe that's okay. But the lies, the continuous lies of the sixth floor have gotten me to the point where I'm going to do more than say liar, liar, pants on fire. Because he turned around, and I guess he had a fight with Ray Mitchell. Like, you know, let's a discussion with Ray Mitchell. And again, he spewed lies. Lies, lies, and more lies. And I have to laugh because he said that the judge dismissed this case with prejudice. Well, Boy Emperor, 6-year-old child throwing a tantrum. Understand something. The judge didn't dismiss this case with prejudice because it was wrong. The judge dismissed this case with prejudice with consent of the filers, of the petitioners. They told their legal counsel not to pursue the case any further. The case was perfectly legal, and had the city council known what they were doing, when you went into court the next day, you would be over there saying, oh, I can't enter into this contract. Because you entered into the contract in violation of city ordinance and the law, which says you can't enter into a contract without funding. And that was the problem was. But the minute the nitwitted nine voted for this budget, they funded the contract. Therefore, that argument was moot. So no temporary restraining order was necessary. Now, I spoke to several attorneys about this suit prior to it going to court, and they said very clearly, you know that if the city council funds this, that it's moot. You're not going to get a temporary restraining order. You'll probably prevail in the long haul, but do the 10 taxpayers want to rack up that type of a bill? The mayor, and I have these quotes, and I'm going to play them. The mayor said very clearly to Ray Mitchell that he felt it was a frivolous lawsuit, and he had to hire outside attorneys because the law office in Fall River does not have the expertise to handle 5 days and overtime. And with that, I think I'm going to stop playing that.
Can you answer me another question? Why?
Sure.
Why in God's name did you go out and hire a Boston firm to fight this case?
Very simply, because if we had lost and we don't have the expertise internally, Joe Macy will tell you, we don't have the expertise to work 5 days in a row, overtime and the weekend, to represent this kind of case with this kind of expertise. And had we not hired that kind of a law firm, and we had lost because of your frivolous lawsuit, then the taxpayers would be on the hook for potentially hundreds of thousands, if not millions. Well, in essence, we spent $20,000 prudent.
You know what?
I object.
So do I.
I object. I object because, number one, I object to the mayor of the city of Fall River saying that we cost the city money. Now, that really crossed the line. Mr. Mayor, we are the city of Fall River. The 10 taxpayers with the word taxpayer attached to them are the city of Fall River, not you and not your agenda. And your argument, again, is more hyperbole than fact. If this case was frivolous, why did you have to hire an outside firm to prepare the case? Why did you say that if you lost this case, it would have cost hundreds of thousands of dollars? Why did you get all your clowns on a city council to pass this thing before the court case to render the point moot? All those things indicate one thing. You're full of shit. That's what you are, okay? Because that's bull. You've cost the city $300,000 because you didn't negotiate with a labor union in good faith already. And you're going to cost the taxpayer more money on that case. So let's not compare, because I'm going to tell you something right now. I'm going to go on record. This is what makes America. We get the, it's legal. We're not doing anything illegal. If 10 taxpayers decide to say, hey, and I think we've been proven right. We've already got a few councilors investigating the cost of the trucks and finding out we're getting a royal screw job on the trucks. They're selling online for 40 to 60% more than we're giving them to this company. And then you make the ridiculous argument that you're going to, oh, the RFP will cost too much money. RFPs don't cost any money. You just say we want a RFP and people will bid. It's not a very costly process, and if we were going to get 40 to 60% more for those trucks, it would be well worth it. But no, you like to talk about half-truths, and you like to disparage everybody that has a differing opinion. And what gets me is some of your supporters were in the same position of being disparaged when they supported the recall. And people use that same ridiculous argument. It's going to cost the city $60,000 for this election. That's why we shouldn't have it. That's not true. That's why we should have it. It's an exercise of the people having a voice in government. That's what this country was based on. And you know something, Mr. Mayor? I paid for you to fight against me in the recall and in a taxpayer suit. You paid that with my money because I've been paying my taxes for years. Unlike some of the people you've appointed to your board that were in arrears until they got appointed to something, I've been paying. So I have a right as an American and as a citizen of this city to have a differing opinion. Without getting personal and without trying to say you did this because you don't like me, you got an axe to grind. What I don't like is you wasting money. What I don't like is you bringing in somebody from Pawtucket for an $80,000 a year job that doesn't have any qualifications when we had people in Fall River apply for that job and with much better credentials. I got a problem with you splitting that department. It was being run by one individual fine. You found a way to give everybody you know, your family knows, or any of your supporters know, a job. That's what bothers me. And I've got a right to my opinion. And you can disagree all you want. But I have a right. This is what this country was based on. The ability of the people to have a voice in their government. As a matter of fact, we have a little document that dates back to the 1700s that basically says that when a government stops working for you, you not only should overthrow it, you have an obligation and you're duty bound to try to change it. And I'm tired of you and the council, like Councilor Steve Long at the last council meeting say, I don't care what the people say. Well, Councilor Long, you should, because you were elected to represent them. You can disagree, and that's fine. But nothing irritates me more when people want to deny other people their right to speak because this is what America is based on. The American Nazi Party has a right to spew their venom and demonstrate as long as they don't act on it, and that's been tested in the Supreme Court of the United States. And the American Nazi Party was defended by the American Civil Liberties Union, and most of the lawyers that were on that case were Jewish, defending the right of people that wanted to execute them all, because it's America. You have a right. And as a taxpayer, if there's a law on the books that says, if you follow these procedures, you have a right to do this, there's nothing wrong. You can disagree, but don't get, but it's always about, let's get personal, let's deny. Nobody has a right to have an opinion. Well, if that's the way you want to run this government, why bother having elections? Let's just call this what it is. A dictatorship. Anybody that disagrees with you, it's like, a councilor party had the audacity to go online and Google the price of trucks and then question why we're selling trucks at 40% of the market value minimum. That he's doing his job. He's doing his job. Your philosophy is that everybody's supposed to agree with you because now you're the king. Well, you're not. You're the mayor. And we have a right, we have a constitutional right to have a voice in government, and there are laws on the books to protect that. And I urge you all to go online and look at the Theodore Roosevelt quote about criticism of politicians, and it was based on his own at one of his speeches, and I should have had it for today, but I'll get it on another show. He basically said, as the President of the United States, he should be criticized whenever he does anything wrong. He says, as a matter of fact, I should be the person that's criticized the most because I have the biggest job. But when I do something right, give me the credit for doing it right. But when I do something wrong, I urge all Americans to criticize me, because he understood what America's about. And I know this is the same old horse manure. People only want what's to their own benefit, most people. And I saw it in the Union Hall. People didn't want us to defend people they didn't like personally, even if it was the right thing to do, because it was somebody they didn't like. And they couldn't grasp the concept that if we did that, when it was their turn in the bucket and they needed representation, we'd have to tell them, well, we've already acquiesced on that. We've already given up, so we can't represent you. We can't pick and choose who we represent, and we can't pick and choose what we do. But we can have our own opinions, and we can debate the opinions, and we can disagree with each other. But to say that you're not entitled to those opinions and to attack people personally and imply that they have some hidden agenda or an axe to grind. Listen, I've had an axe to grind my whole life, if that's your definition. When I was in the union, I represented people I liked and I disliked. I fought with the city every time they violated a contract, every time they didn't give us a contract and they had the money to. And I won the majority of times, almost all the time. Why did I do it? Because it was our right. It was our obligation to protect our membership. And now that I'm a private citizen, I have the great luxury not only to restrict my complaining about bad government to just the fire department. And I will continue to complain and continue to participate. And it's nothing personal. I dislike people making it, saying things are frivolous when they're full of crap. But the fact is that, listen, you say what you've got to say, and that's what the process is about. It's about having opinions. And the people who want to suppress opinions, and what really bothers me are the people who are on the other side just a few short months ago. Last year, They were on the opposite side. They were complaining because people were vilifying them for having a differing opinion. They were attacking them personally because they had a differing opinion. But guess what? We changed the complexion of this state because we got a recall through that had never been done before. But you know, whether you win, lose, or draw, if you fight the fight, you can hold your head up. It's like the man in the arena. The credit does not belong to the critic. It belongs to the man in the arena, the person who's out there trying to make this a better place. And, you know, if you don't like the fact that I don't like wasting money and hiring people from out of town when there are people, when Fall River has one of the highest unemployment rates and has the lowest income level in the city, well, tough. And if you think that I like to have a residency requirement in place and never require anybody to live in the city, well, tough. Because I'll have my opinion, you can have your opinion, we can debate forever. Nothing personal, it's about politics. But then when I'm done talking about politics, I'll go do something else because I got a life outside of politics. But I'll be damned if I'm going to watch this city and watch them misspend money and make ridiculous statements and lie and allow it to happen. Just like I went before the council on Kathy Ann's lies. You know, the mayor running to the radio whining every time he doesn't get his way and then condemning someone for having a different opinion shows he doesn't understand the way this government works. This is a government of checks and balances. He's the executive branch, the city council's the legislative branch, and people who actually check things deserve kudos, not condemnation. And with that, my rant is over.
Well, you know, Chip, you brought up Roosevelt, and I've got two quotes here that I definitely need to make. And I think the boy emperor needs to understand this. And it's got to be very clear to you. In any moment of decision, the best thing you can do is the right thing. The worst thing you can do is nothing. And so far, Mr. Mayor, you haven't done the right thing, and you're doing nothing except line the pockets of your friends. All right? And I'm going to end that with one more quote. And I want you to take this to heart, boy emperor, child, temper, tantrum, king. If you could kick the person in the pants responsible for most of your trouble, you wouldn't sit for a month, Mr. Mayor, because you are the cause of the problem. And regardless of your minions, who, when I look at the OCPF report, show that they're giving you money, okay, I don't know what they're trying to get, former political candidates for office who walk the fence instead of walking the right or the left. Because you know what? When you walk on the right, you're fine. When you walk on the left, you're fine. But when you walk in the middle, smash, you're crushed. Remember that when you decide you're going to run for office again, people. Okay? And remember that we will hold you accountable for your actions to support a tyrant, to support falsehoods, because it's got to end. It's got to end somewhere. And whether you like it or not, everyone is already saying they don't trust you. They don't trust you, boy emperor. Your untrustworthy status is up there with Hillary Clinton. And that's a scary thought because it didn't even take you 8 months to get to that point. And it really nauseates me. And then when I start listening more to this diatribe of you on the radio, it scares me. It really does.
To save the taxpayers any kind of nonsense that your lawsuit.
Well, I'm going to tell you something, Mr. Mayor. You and I,
we negotiated the fee down from $31,000, $32,000 to a flat fee of $20,000, which is very reasonable for that type of law firm.
So, well, CJ, that's just...
And here's the thing. He hired his friend from Providence, holding true to his campaign promise that I will hire the best and the brightest from Rhode Island. We even appointed to the Redevelopment Authority a WSAR personality, Joe Bentley. She's not even a Fall River resident. She's from Somerset. And she's an architect. What does she know about economic development?
Well, okay, let me just say one thing with that, about that statement. That's what really upsets me. Look, you want to spend money, if you're spending money on issues that deal with people's opinions, number one, it's money well spent. It's their money.
That's right.
So, you know, the fact is people have rights. And I don't want to hear you negotiating. You didn't care about how much it cost to screw the people at DCM when you unilaterally eliminated their jobs without bargaining properly. The $300,000 you spent on that, we're not talking about. We're talking about $20,000. But then that begs the question, what is our law department worth? Miss Joe Macy, you know, the genius judge, if that case was such crap, you didn't need anybody.
That's right.
He could have walked into court and said, this case is absolute crap, and I request a summary judgment. That's it. This case has no merit. But it had enough merit for you to go out and hire a company, and enough merit for you to say if you lost this case, which how can you lose a case? It's absolute horseshit. It was going to cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. Does anybody that supports you ever listen and have any modicum of ability to understand? I remember a professor I had in college, and he made one of the most profound statements I ever heard. He was a political activist, and we disagreed on a lot of things. But very bright guy, and he said, America's greatest strength is also its greatest weakness. He said, everybody gets the same vote. And he said, so some guy that doesn't care about anything except whether he can, you know, have a gun rack in his truck or that, you have a position on some obscure issue that he likes, will cancel out a vote of a person who really is looking at issues and voting. And he said that's one of the problems. He said the majority rules, and the majority are just, you know, uninitiated and uneducated in what they're voting for. You know, they market candidates. They don't, you know, the days of the Lincoln-Douglas debates are gone, when candidates got up and people read newspapers because they had to, and they couldn't see these people on sound bites and commercials. They market candidates. All we have to do is go back to John Kennedy. Everybody who watched the Kennedy-Nixon debate on television said Kennedy won. Everybody who listened to it on the radio, the majority, said Nixon won the debate. Why? Because the people who listened to it on the radio listened to what was said. The people who watched it on TV saw John Kennedy, handsome, war hero, clean-shaven, beautiful wife, Camelot. He saw Richard Nixon, 5 o'clock shadow, not a handsome guy. They didn't give a so what came out of his mouth? This is how shallow the voting public can be. This is why we have what we have in government. You take Mauna Kea and do more research on somebody who fixes your car or is going to put a roof on your house than you do to elect the President of the United States, the mayor of the city of Fall River, or a city councilor. That's the sad fact. And it's shown by who we elect and who we keep in office. And regardless of what they do, they stay there. It's like now, how can anybody refute the fact that these trucks are selling for more online? I'm sure Councilor Ponte would be glad to share that information with anybody, and the mayor got really upset with that. How dare you? And even if that's true, we can't put out another RFP. Yes, you can. What does that prove? It proved that what we said in that taxpayer suit was correct. You rushed into this contract. We're going to lose on a lot of ends of this contract ultimately. And it went to court, and you made it moot by having your stooges in the council enter into the contract. Just like when we did the fire chief, And we had a lockdown win when we got 10,000 signatures. For all your recallers, I'll remind you, before you did that, I did 10,000 signatures in a week. And that was going to go on a ballot. And it would have to change, and by law, they would have to rescind that vote. But then Mayor Correia ran up to Boston, where he spent 30 years, used all his political clout, and those political whoas up there all walked out of a back room and ramrodded it through the state and changed the legislation. Did that make us wrong? No. We were right. And had that gone to court, we would have never got a contract fire chief. But they made the point moot, and all the lawyers said it's a waste of time. They've already made it. They've already made the change, just like in this case. And guess what? Look what happened to the contract fire chief. Not there anymore. It blew up in their face when they made a lieutenant fire chief. So this again, let's look at things objectively. Let's not be personal. It's nothing personal. And people are saying we got an axe to grind. No, I got an axe to grind against people who aren't doing the right thing, who are wasting my tax dollars. I want to see more firefighters and police officers on the job. I don't want to see you give everybody a job and everybody a pay raise and then worry about police and fire. It's wrong. And anybody who can't see that has got their head up their derriere.
Well, I think it was said best by a very famous person who said,
"Stupid is, stupid does, sir."
And there you go. All right, and that's what's happening in Fall River. And I find it appalling and upsetting when people forget very important points of our government. And I'm gonna before I start going too much further, because we're almost out of time, I want to remind people of a very, very poignant line in our country's founding. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equally station to which the laws of nature and nature's God entitles them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Guess what, Mr. Mayor? That's where you have put us. You've put us back to the days of 1776. Will Flanagan started it, and the people rose and got rid of him. They were given a brief intermission of about 9 months, 10 months, a year, where they didn't have to worry too much about fighting the fight, because the minions of Fall River had to select the worst of the two evils, kind of like our presidential election this year. And they chose you, based upon your promises, lies, your plans, lies, and your actions, lies. Okay? You notice how everything goes back to a lie? That's because, Mr. Mayor, you have failed to prove anything, except that you know how to spend the taxpayer dollar. Spend, spend, spend. And it's not even spent in Fall River, it's spent in Rhode Island. It's spent in Boston. I've seen the hotels. I've seen the dinners. They're not cheap. You think you're Donald Trump, but you're not. And you're spending the taxpayer money on that.
Hey, first time he's ever had money to spend. It's not his, but
exactly.
Then again, but the fact is that, look, all we got to do is look back. $5,000 showers, marble floors. The beat goes on. They continue to spend our money. They continue to waste our money. And if you want us to talk about facts, fine. But just remember what Lao Tzu said. When you worry about what other people think of you, you'll always be their prisoner. I'll never be anybody's prisoner.
That's it.
Because I really don't give a shit.
Have a good weekend, everybody. Stay angry.